Put me in by asking
I was
questions.
born. I was born.
All right. Ready, Megan? What they didn't teach you in school. Hello. And welcome to this week's What They Did Not Teach You in School, episode number 12. We got Sal Longo over here and yours truly. We're going to be talking about millennials, the problems that they face,
How to handle the problems.
some solutions that people may have to those problems. We're going to be talking about education, what's the point of going to get your master's or university degree in general from the perspective of an investor. How do you pay off your debt the easiest way possible? Should you pay off your debt aggressively? Wait, what is all that about? And then we're going to be talking about should you rent or buy? What are the pros and cons to each? Before we get started, some interesting stuff happening in the news. Uber apparently this morning came out with that Uber lost 57 million people's emails, phone numbers, and names. Now, it's not a big deal because it's not like SIN numbers and passwords and credit card information, but with that information, people can still get stuff from you. Actually, Uber paid the hackers $100,000 to delete all of that information about a year ago, and it's been concealed. The chief security officer of the company got fired for hiding that from the public, and it's been coming out now. Everyone, please change your passwords every 6 weeks, make complicated passwords, and change up your Visa card number every once in a while.
And don't use the same password for everything you use.
Yeah, like for me, every 3 to 6 months, I'll actually call in my Visa card stolen and get a new one, just so that it changes the number on it. So, a little bit on that, Uber. What are you going to do? This kind of stuff happens. Security is so important.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. Should I go to post-secondary education and get that certificate or that MBA or that master's degree? And I always ask, what's the point? What is the point? And it really depends. Is it worth it or not?
So, let's go back to some of the challenges that are facing millennials today. So there's high property prices facing them. They're not making as much income for the same sort of education their parents just a generation ago was having. They're not earning as much as in terms of their first kind of job. They're not getting the experience they need. And the question is, how are they going to really afford or get ahead? And a lot of millennials have this question. They ask, should I be pursuing further education? Because, it's been not brainwashed, but it's instilled in us, in society, that more education equals more income.
A lot of thought leaders think that that's it's called an education bubble or education inflation, which means that the same jobs that our parents could have got, in the 90s or 80s, now requires a master's degree, PhD level education in order to get it.
That's right.
And the actual income of those jobs hasn't gone up a lot since our parents' days either. So we're going to school longer, which is missed opportunity costs of making money over the years that you're in school. Plus the actual cost of education has gone up, and there hasn't been a increase in salary. So you're going to school longer, spending more money for the same amount of income.
You want to really look for millennials that are looking to pursue this education is, like you said, what is the goal or what is the purpose? It's not, is it a hobby? Peter Thiel talks about it, one of, the infamous Peter Thiel. We're not going to get into much detail, but he talks about what is education. Is it just a 4-year party? Some people treat it as a way that they don't have to go into the real world, and working can be challenging, but from a financial perspective, and that's what we like to look at, education has to meet your goal of getting the job you want. And typically you got to know, is this education not only going to be getting me to that job, but is that job, in terms of the raise that it's going to be giving you, the benefits, going to be able to pay for that extra education? We know master's degrees can be $100,000 for like an MBA and whatnot, right? So let's
talk about MBAs for a second. A lot of the times, just working and getting work experience will get you that in return anyway, right? So how much does a standard MBA cost in Ontario at least? 90 to 120,000?
Some of them are 50, but they start at least 50,000 to 100,000.
Right, so you have to either work your butt off during that year to 3 years, and a lot of the time you're ponying up that money. Is it worth it for the amount of money that you make when you finish?
That's right. Typically the answer is it's an investment decision. So if it's a $5,000 or $10,000 salary increase, $100,000 when you're looking at interest, and everything like that, it's not really, doesn't look like a very attractive investment to make in terms of you're putting so much time into it. Sometimes you're out of the workforce for 1 year.
We all know that one person that's really just afraid to make a life decision, so they go and do their MBA, or
That's
they
right.
go and do, I think I'm going to do my master's for a year.
Another year.
They think that taking that year or whatever the case is to go and get their education is actually going to help them decide. But really going out and trying a bunch of different jobs and
True.
failing over the year probably will get you further ahead,
True.
and you're making money.
Education is an investment. It can be an investment, not always a great investment. Key thing is invest in yourself. Education could be it, maybe a certificate, read books, get work experience. That usually triumphs.
Imagine spending $90,000 on good books. Moving on, a lot of millennials also ask, now I'm out of school, should I pay down my debt aggressively right now? Should I wait and invest? What should I do?
We can't speak for everyone's student debt, but a lot of the time they're around 3 to 5%.
Well, let's just think. If it's a student line of credit that you get from a tier 1 bank, usually that's going to be prime, which is, 3%, let's say, plus 1%. So let's say it's 4%.
Yeah.
If you were to get it from OSAP, it's actually a less percentage by a little bit, and it's tax deductible. So when you're taking a look at this, we always say, pay off high interest debt first. So if you have any Visa card debts, any kind of debts above 8%, you may want to consider paying them off. Any debts below 8%, you could get a better return in the market, and that could actually help you pay off your debts faster if you were to invest over paying off your debts. There is an emotional component to it. So a lot of people don't like the idea of debt, and that comes a lot from our parents' generation, that back in the 80s, if you had $10,000 worth of debt at an 18% interest rate back then,
It's a lot higher.
that would cause a lot of problems. So our parents grew up thinking that debt is a bad thing because interest rates were so high. But nowadays, with interest rates so low, our parents are always telling us to pay off their debt, but debt necessarily isn't the worst thing if you're using that money to go and invest elsewhere at a higher interest rate.
The rule of thumb is typically invest it elsewhere if you're getting a higher rate, like you said, and obviously make the minimum payments, because after you graduate, a lot of these student debts do require that you have to make a minimum payment of sorts. So get that minimum payment, don't stress about it too much, and invest your money. Don't just pay down that low interest rate debt. The last topic we're going to be talking about today is, should people rent or buy? So prior to getting into whether we should rent or buy, the Globe and Mail just did an article. You guys should check it out. It's actually saying that, can the government save the middle class wannabe homeowners in Toronto and Vancouver? And what they're talking about, and how this applies to millennials, is that home prices, as we all know, have increased so tremendously. Can these millennials afford these homes? And the average family income in Toronto right now is $80,000. On average, millennials typically make even less. The incomes that families are making, you need 10 times or 10 years of that family income to be able to afford a home. And for millennials right now, it seems like, oh, okay, that's what we're used to and accustomed to. But the reality of the situation is, in other cities, like, let's just take, for instance, Ottawa, where the average family income is $107,000, so more than Toronto, their average house price is $370,000.
What are millennials in Toronto and the GTA supposed to do?
Well, typically it goes back to renting or buying. You want to try to save as much as you can. If you start renting, you save on a lot of costs that are associated with home ownership, but you want to obviously invest that money, right? You don't want to be renting and just paying someone else's mortgage. So the thing is, we always go back to a classic example. If you're buying a condo for $500,000, you need about $100,000 plus of your own capital that you saved up to put into this condo. That money could be used to invest in your business. That money could be used to invest in the market and different things. So the question, the answer to this is, you want to have your money working for you. Always invest it, whether you're buying that property, renting it out might be a smart move. But renting is not always the worst thing, because as long as you're investing that money.
Another couple options for people as well is, if prices are so high and you want to get into the market, team up with a friend or a family member. If you have 5 people all together at $20,000 a piece, you can save up for that $100,000 mark, and that's a great way to get into the market, so that the market isn't growing and you can't catch up to it. We'll see you guys next week. This is What They Did Not Teach You in School with Sal and Anthony.
Have a good day, guys.